Hey everybody, what's happening? Robert Phoenix back again on the case. Your sleuth for inner truth, your detective with an inner directive. I'm right here. I got my morning cup of power coffee, and Anna E is here right on time. Good to see you, or see your name at least, Anna E. Coming off a epic, almost 3-hour show last night. Covered a lot of territory, and I'm going to kind of go over some of that. Hey, there she is, Jennifer Fitzgerald. What's going on, Jennifer? Looking forward to seeing you. Real soon, creeping up on us here. The days are coming fast. 2020 is almost behind us. J&P Love, another traveler. Good morning. There's the Joe Mama, Mojo Mama. What's going on? Hearing nothing but good things about what's going on in your life, Joe, from my sources down in Asheville. Keep up the good work. Sandra, what's going on, Cuzzy Cuz? Uncle Glenn, there's Ian Barber, Lils, the lovely intelligent Jonas, Laura D, there's Ryan, Fup77, Double V, shot at Double V this morning. What's going on, Victoria? Justice Moody, g'day, mate. John G, hello, John. Coming at us from Nevada. What a show it was last night. Yeah, there was a lot going on, huh? We covered a lot of ground. I'm going to actually kind of go over a couple more things from last night. So this is kind of a part two. If you didn't see last night's show and you have 3 hours of precious time to spend, I really need somebody to help me make video clips here. I think that'd be helpful, like little snippets. Oh, you're welcome, Joe. Rita Perea, what's going on, Rita? The change agent is in the house. Good Life 3 is here. Frank Bry, Mary Black pulled into Mizzou. So far, not a happy camper. I'm still unmoored. Well, hopefully you get here and you'll get a little more moored. And I think, Mary, I don't think you're alone right now, by the way. I think a lot of us feel unmoored. If not physically, then psychically, emotionally, spiritually. Emerald V, hey, what's going on? All the way from Bonn, Germany. How are you today? Let's see, who else do we have here? Anybody else coming in? Got about 38 peeps here. So just to recap, last night, looked at the charts of the couple of the Supreme Court potential nominees, Amy Coney Barrett and Barbara Lagoa, and it's going to be another day where they queue up the who out here in the fields, right? This is we're in the battleground now. The battle mind for hearts and minds, philosophies, dogma, morals, all the tropes and memes and the blueprints that circulate between our synapses, drive directive, and our perspective, and it's on. And a polarized nation will likely become even more polarized in the days and weeks ahead. And it seeming that the only solution to polarization is to have one group completely become dissolved while the other group becomes victorious, because it doesn't seem like there's going to be any compromise at any point along the way. And that is problematic. And this is really what we're staring down now. And by the way, I'm not really in favor of that. I'm really not in favor of that. I think it's always good to have a dissenting voice, but the dissenting voice shouldn't be so loud and blaring that it completely drowns out any kind of real rational discourse or being able to sit down at a table together and discuss an idea and then walk away from that table if both parties can't agree upon the same idea. I mean, this is where it's got to, and it is the bed, it is the psychic bed of the Civil War. I mean, that's really what we're staring down here, which is unfortunate, and not something that as an American, as somebody who's living in this country, not something that, quite frankly, that I'm looking forward to at all. If indeed that is the case, right? I mean, civil wars are bloody. They can last for a very long period of time. Um, the toll it takes, the attrition that it takes, and I'm not even talking about like the American Civil War, which I have doubts about, by the way. I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about my doubts about the American Civil War. I have some doubts about the American Civil War, specifically because it's happening right around the same time all the Tartarian stuff is happening. By the way, I highly recommend watching John Levi's video from about 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe about 2 weeks ago. And it's about Mount Rushmore. And he brings up, and and I've always looked at Mount Rushmore and had this, HTF moment. Like, how the fuck? Like, how the fuck did they build that? Right? I always had that in my back of my mind. How did they do that? And why aren't there more Mount Rushmores? Why aren't there more Mount Rushmores? If they could kind of bang that thing out in the 7 years, which is really how long it took to carve those giant heads. Teresa Blackburn, there's Ani. Dorothy. Hey, what's going on, Dorothy? I think you guys should get Calvin. Calvin's waiting for you in Alamo Heights. There he is, DJMC. Dice reported $17 million invested by Soros, like liberal district attorneys on the local level. There did I, Glenn Miller. There's PB. There's Natasha. JP, what is the final head count for the event? Ooh, I think we're at 34, 35 people, give or take. One or two who are kind of on the fence and might be coming, which I have to lasso them in. My fault. Didn't hit the bell. Oh, that's okay. You can hit the bell. You can hit like. You can, here's what this is important, by the way. If you have subscribed, okay, and you're not getting notifications, guess what? You can subscribe and hit the bell once more. So Nancy brings up a point. So there are movies of the guys working on Mount Rushmore. Well, there are pictures, but what are they really doing? Like, what are they really doing? That is the question, you see. That is the question. What are they really doing? And how many guys are there? Right. I mean, again, I'm just telling you, watch the video. Watch the video. Watch John Levi's video. I'll put a link in the show page here. Hey, what's going on, Judy? Remember the Mount Rushmore? And where did Trump go? Like, Trump went to Mount Rushmore. Why was he going to Mount Rushmore? What? Because it's American. He'd like to see his face up there. By the way, I would put a challenge out to any sculptor or if I had money, if I had just FU money, I'd put a challenge out to any sculptor or team of sculptors that could carve like the same size face as Martin Luther King into that mountain. Let's see if they could come up with that. The other thing that this guy Borgland, who supposedly was the sculptor of just watch John Levi's video. You'll have more questions than you'll have answers. Trust me on this thing. Oh, hey, there's Maurice. What's going on? He's back online. Good job, Maurice. Way to hang in there, brother. The guy that did it also did this thing at Stone Mountain. He carved this, supposedly, this major piece out of in Stone Mountain, Georgia. And the weird thing about the Stone Mountain, Georgia part is that it's like, what's the context? Who are those people? Right? There's a depiction of these people, but nobody really knows who they are. And the Mount Rushmore thing, apparently there was the Native American name, I believe, what is it? The Sioux? Is the Sioux there? Ogallala. Anyway, their name for that mountain was called the Six Grandfathers. That's what they called that mountain, the Six Grandfathers. And there happens to be, four grandfathers. And what's interesting about there's some footage like the film. Supposedly, there's a face next to Washington that looks like somebody with long hair, and eventually that face kind of goes away. Okay, it's an interesting video, and if you have any kind of interest in Tartaria in history, or the history as it's been told to us, then you may want to watch that video because you'll have more questions than you do answers at that point. And I always did. It was like, how did they do this? You know, how do you get perspective and everything? And not only that, but when you look up close personal, at least with the video, to the eyes have like this incredible kind of animating spirit. Like it's really hard to get. And there are you could see like the sort of the muscle lines underneath the cheeks and everything. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Now, what's interesting is that supposedly right after Mount Rushmore is completed, the sculptor of Mount Rushmore, this Borglund guy, dies. And then his kid is supposed to carry on, and his kid can't do anything. Right? And his kid was supposedly the guy that helped him out primarily. And you'd have to have like a team of like, again, this goes all the way back into like the whole Tartarian thing. You look at a city like San Francisco with the World's Fair creating all those buildings, you know, you'd have to have a team of people incredibly skilled in order to carry out that massive operation in creating all these buildings that in San Francisco pretty much appear overnight like a mushroom, right? I mean, they just start popping up. And supposedly it was the Chinese that built all those buildings. Really, like who's going to communicate with them? Who's going to communicate with them and talk to them about, you know, well, of course, you know, you have to, you know, go into this kind of, you know, early Roman period, and then you have to add this Grecian sort of effect and then bring it forward into this pre-Victorian kind of sensibility with a sense of mid-century modern kind of waiting in the distance. Like, how do you communicate that with somebody who is from another country? It doesn't really happen that way. So again, for me, the Tartarian stuff is the missing link. It is truly the missing link. And what Levi postulates is that these characters that appear on Mount Rushmore, that they're there, and that we create a history around these characters, which is kind of interesting. And look, it's about as believable as some of the other shit I've heard. Okay. It's about as believable as Nasara. Okay, who do we have here? Sacred Suicide. Let's see. Audio sounds great today. Clear a little bit of bass. A little bit of bass. Give me some bass. That sounds like a late 80s, technotronic disco rap act. Same as Salt Lake City and the Temple. Nothing. No, of course not. How to be able to build that stuff in the middle of freaking no, because he gets into this thing with the fountains, which I highly recommend watching the video on fountains because he makes a great point that these fountains are really, really sophisticated. Let me see if I could figure this out here for a second. Let me go to, where are we? Here, let me get back here. Let me just do this. Okay, so I believe it's Omaha, Nebraska. If I'm not, is it Omaha that's got all the fountains? A lot of them are newer. I'm just kind of scanning the Omaha fountain scene. A lot of them are new, but they're all over the place in Omaha. It's a city known for its fountainry. Let me just show you. Let me just go fountains. Let me try this one. This might be. Do this. Hold on. Try this. Okay, so all right. Let's look at this thing here for a second. Okay. All right. This is a pretty good example. I know I'm going a little off script, but you guys are used to that by now. Okay. So here is. We'll just look at famous fountains. All right. This is Washington D.C. Now look at this thing. Look at this thing. And they created this fountain. Here's another one. That's in Washington, D.C. Okay. These fountains theoretically were created during a time where people were literally crapping in outhouses, right? They were literally crapping in outhouses. Look at these fountains. They're amazing. And some of these are in the U.S. and some of these aren't in the U.S. Obviously, I'm just giving you an idea of the ornate masonry and work in these fountains. Are incredible. And if you look at really what if you look at where architecture, here's one in New York City. If you look at where architecture was during this time, right? Let's just take a look at this. I mean, look at this thing. Look at that. It's incredible. And they're all over the place, right? City Hall, Manhattan Park. Now, this one's new. That's a new fountain. Very interesting. Looking a little bit like Burning Man there. Ah, there we go. I was there. That's new. That's the World's Fair. I was there as a kid. Let's see what else we have here. Look at this. And when are they going to tear the fountains down? When is that happening? Look at that. Look at that. This stuff's incredible, right? When you really get into the old, here we go. This is that beautiful right there. That's in Bronx Park, the zoo, the Bronx. Okay. And some of these are newer and some of these are quite old, right? Look how beautiful that is. We don't do anything like that anymore. Nothing. So let me show you what fountain. Let me show you where architecture was during that time. Okay. Let me show you. Let me give you a bird's eye view of where things were really. If I could find a representative picture here of what things were really like. Yeah, here we go. Now we're getting there. We're getting closer to the scene, closer to the source. There we go. All right. So these are photos from I like to use Deadwood, South Dakota, because I think that really Deadwood is pretty representative of what a real gold rush town would look like versus say San Francisco. Yeah, see, this is really what was going on, right? I mean, this really was where architecture was at. And look, I know that they're digging stuff out, and you know they're. So this is from 141 years ago. Okay, I mean, you match that up against San Francisco at the same time, and it's not even close. It's not even close. I mean, they're like two planets. Like this, I think, is really where we were in terms of building things. Like that's it. Boxy, boxy, boxy. You know, that is not like Fountainland. Okay. And so, well, you know, it took them a while to get those. It happens very, very quickly. It happens very theoretically. It happens quickly. Theoretically, and think of how they were using things like lavatories and and plumbing and all the stuff that goes along with what they're doing. And by the way, that's it right there. There was your major kind of earth moving vehicles, horse and buggy, horse and wagon. That's it. That's it. So I think, and I've always thought that once we dropped into Tartaria, that there was a there, a pretty significant there. And for some people, it's like, I don't buy it. It's okay. You don't have to buy it, but it's about as real as, in my estimation, believing in Roswell and aliens, which I do believe happened, by the way, if you're into sort of checking that box at home. Okay, so shall we start off our show today? All right, here we go. Dear blessed Holy Father, Mother God of the great central sun, within the universal light, which is the light of Yeshua, Sananda, Emmanuel, we ask that one of the highest and best information, wisdom, and truth come through this channel at this time, that everybody who listens to this and watches this or comes into contact with this through any other person who has watched or listened to it are blessed in grace with providence and abundance and joy, plenitude, security, faith, freedom, intellect, wisdom, strength, flexibility, humor, wisdom for themselves, and also, above all things, empathy, compassion, courage, and love. And we ask that any karmic residue be cleansed, purified, and cleared away as we enter in and out of this stream. So be it. All right, let's go. So there's a couple things I want to follow up on. Obviously, the RBG thing is really going to heat up. It's going to be the next divisive point. The divisive point. But I'm gonna show you now what it will be doing to people on the left, theoretically. Pay attention. This is pay attention here. This is going to be the RBG effect right here. Right here. Some of you may have seen this. Some of you may have seen it. Let me just make sure. I gotta make sure I click. Hold on. I always have to do this. It's my first one of the day. That's my first one of the day. I just got to make sure. I can't mess it up. I can't mess it up. Give me one sec. Here we go. Okay. All right. Here we go. Some of you may have seen this. If you haven't seen it, you are in for a treat, and a bizarre treat. This is Nancy Pelosi, and look at her there. Now she's getting ready to tell George Stephanopoulos what she can do and not do. Pay close attention, and pay close attention to Stephanopoulos here. Watch the look on his face. Here we go.
10 states, as I said, on Friday, I started their early voting the day that we lost Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
But to be clear, you're not taking any arrows out of your quiver. You're not ruling anything out.
Good morning. Sunday morning. We have a responsibility. We take an oath to protect.
Look at Stephanopoulos. Look at Stephanopoulos. Is that like the biggest what the fuck look you've seen? Look at this guy. Good morning. Sunday morning. What the hell is going on here? What is going on here? I'll tell you right now, this is a robotoid. Nancy Pelosi is a robotoid. Let's watch this again. Here we go.
And states, as I said, on Friday, I started their early voting the day that we lost Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
But to be clear, you're not taking any arrows out of your quiver. You're not ruling anything out.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
What the hell is that? Good morning. Sunday morning. It's like, okay, let's reboot. It's like the mainframe is like talking to her. Good morning. It's like she's getting this reset. It is so bizarre. This is right up there with Al Roker, right? This is bizarre. And this just happened. And look at the look on Stephanopoulos' face. Is this not a holy shit moment right here? That is a holy shit moment. Yeah. Yeah. doing her very best to smile through. Oh my God.
We have a responsibility. We take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Oh my God. That's
10
worth
states, as I said.
one more time.
On Friday, I started their early voting the day that we lost Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
But to be clear, you're not taking any arrows out of your quiver. You're not ruling anything
By the way, any arrows out of your quiver, that's like South Node and Sagittarius talk right there.
out.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Good morning. Sunday morning. Oh my God. That I'm telling you, man, this is going to be the most meme-worthy, like, high strange you're going to see all week. All week. Yeah. Yeah. She was getting rebooted. The mainframe was talking to her. Good morning. Sunday morning. Like, okay. Okay.
We have a responsibility. We take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States.
And it's like, is that not like the script just running in her head at that point? That is a total script right there. And Stephanopoulos is just, again, that is a WTF. What the fuck moment right there. Look at him. Have you guys seen that? Have you guys seen this before? I can't get your comments right now. That is crazy. She's a robotoid. Nancy Pelosi's a robotoid. Different than a clone, by the way. And there's a Dr. Peter Bader. That guy was the pioneer on clones and robotoids. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. I just wanted to play that for you because that's where it's going. Right? That's where it's going. You have a robotoid essentially leading the resistance. Good morning. Sunday morning. So if you ever get fucked up in a conversation, like if you're in a tight jam, just reset and say, good morning, Monday morning. There's your passport to whatever, right? Oh my God. Michelle Gibson does incredible research in this area, diving even deeper into all aspects of hidden history than John Levi. That's cool. I've heard about Michelle Gibson, and I haven't been to her channel. She's really into the whole Moore thing. I'm not sure I weigh in on that. I think it's probably a little more slightly, how should I say this, diverse than just kind of one like story. Mud Fossil University is like whole other level. If you haven't seen Mud Fossil University, I mean, that guy is like finding stuff that'll blow your freaking mind. So, I mean, put them all together. There are a lot of good people out there that are kludging all these different pieces together. And John Levi is, kind of a collector and an aggregator. And, I like his style because he's kind of laconic and dry and open-ended in a lot of ways. So I enjoy John Levi. Let's see. Not only Fowl's being, but virtually everything is not being made any longer. Well, who is making anything anymore, David? I mean, really, truly. I mean, I've seen the Great Church in Russia. It looks like a combination of an Orthodox church meets the battleship Potemkin. I mean, it is, I'm just waiting for like 50 cal guns to start coming out of the minarets there, right? 50 cal guns just whipping out of the Onion Dome. There is really the art of making things and beautiful things is lost to antiquity. Now we are in the recreation of the banal and the superficial and the trite and the expedient. That's where we are. All right. I wanted to jump back into the Jacob Gardner stuff. And I was trying to dig a little bit deeper after last night's show as to why this thing happened the way that happened. Not on Jacob Gardner's side. I know what happened. There was a group of people that were threatening his business, threatening his father, knocked his father down, and James Scurlock, jumped on his. Now, Jacob Gardner had fired 2 warning shots repeatedly and stepped back. This guy jumps on him, it gets on his back, and starts choking the shit out of him. Now, keep in mind that a lot of these people that are protesting, they are hopped up. They are hopped up on methamphetamine. And who knows what else. One of the things I was trying to do, and Emily and I are going to get into this when we mash up this week, that there could be other kinds of chemical constituents that people are being subjected to before they go into the streets and start mixing things up. So I kept looking for a scene in the first Batman film, which is hard to find. I would literally have to go back and watch the movie and grab the scene because I spent at least a half an hour trying to find a particular scene. And it's a scene where, what's his name? Scarecrow, who is the lead doctor in the sanitarium, he's creating this vapor, which is based on scopolamine. And it's the same thing that Bruce Wayne / Batman partakes of in I think it's Tibet, right? It's a blue flower. It may be Datura. I mean, I think that, but it's really more like a scopolamine, right? Which is the stuff that hangs from the tree. And people, once they are subjected to this, it's a toxin. Once they're subjected to the toxin, it does 2 things. Number one, they are open to any kind of suggestion. And number 2, they don't remember it. They do not remember what happens. They have no memory of what they do. So there are people who have used it in places like Colombia where it grows quite freely, and you don't want to be under that tree where this stuff will shed its pollen. And what they'll do is they'll give people, they'll put it in their drink, or they'll figure out how that they can ingest it. They'll become a blank slate. They'll ask them to take them to their place. They'll ask them to open the door. They'll ask them to show them where everything in their house that is valuable, of any worth or value is, and they'll do that. And then they'll take everything, and once it wears off, they don't remember a damn thing, and they don't have anything left in their house. So for a moment, let's entertain the thought that there is a group of people who are, by the way, organizing these events. And let's just say, for instance, they say, listen, we got some really powerful, good stimulants to get you through the night. And we live in a drug culture. People will take it. And I would not be surprised if it's a mixture of some kind of methadone, benzodrine, methamphetamine, and maybe a derivative of this scopolamine. Because in the Batman film, this is exactly what happens. These people are on a rampage. They're on a violent rampage, and they don't remember anything, right? They don't remember a thing. Now the army has been playing with this stuff for a very long time. And I'm not even talking about scopolamine. If you go back and watch the movie Jacob's Ladder with Tim Robbins, which I highly recommend, by the way, it is a scary movie, but it's a very good movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And it has to do with a drug called BZ, which they were working on as kind of a how shall we say, longer term version of LSD. And there's an account where they administered BZ to a squadron of troops, and they wind up like firing on each other. And a lot of the troops in this group experiment wind up dying, mortally wounded, dying. And that's on the public record. Okay. So do you think that the army just said, well, we can't really mess with this anymore? No, they file that stuff away. Say, look, this is very powerful stuff, and we will use it if we have to, where we have to, right? So there are psychoactive agents that are available that can essentially turn people into a zombie army fueled by methamphetamine or fueled by some kind of amphetamine. I don't think it's out of the question that this is what's fueling some of these riots, right? Because people have no sense of anything. That and this ongoing permission, which is, go ahead, you won't get arrested. Go ahead, we'll have a DA come in and we'll fish you out as soon as you get arrested, right? Because most of these people, if their ideology is not enough, they can be driven and become blinded by ideology, but at some point, it's not enough, right? At some point, if you have an ideology and you look around and you see somebody get their heads cracked or something happen, your ideology takes a real hit at that point. And there's a very good chance that you will not be involved in any kind of protesting shortly thereafter for a while. Once you get a real taste of what it's like on the streets and the violence on the streets when it does occur, it is a game changer, let me tell you. Now, that said, I think that people who are partaking in, this kind of chemical compound, and who knows, maybe they don't even know. Maybe they're passing out water and it's in the water. Here you go. Here's your water for the night, whatever, right? It's not out of the question that this stuff takes place. And again, I think there's a lot of foreshadowing in all three of the Batman films. And I tried to show a little bit of that last week. And when Emily and I get together, I'm going to try to find the scenes where Scarecrow is administering this vapor that is essentially turning Gotham City into raging lunatic zombies. And they're creating the zombie army. That's what's happening. So in a lot of ways, it really reminds me of the PCP events like in the 90s. And those who are old enough, in PCP in the 70s, 80s, and 90s was a drug where if you took it, you would lose touch with reality. Like, this is what Rodney King was on. Rodney King was high on PCP, another highly psychoactive compound, which also induces violence and also induces a dissociative state. So when those guys were trying to bring Rodney King down, they were dealing with a raging fucking lunatic because he was high on PCP. That's another compound. And again, it's part of the public record. So now we bring this forward to Jacob Gardner. He's got basically these three zombies who are threatening him and his father and his business, and James Skurlock happens to be one of them, and James Skurlock ultimately is shot. And I played you the video last night of Jacob Gardner. He's a really kind guy. He was a really, really kind guy. I played the video. I'm not going to play it again. Like, this is not somebody who is looking for trouble. He was not looking for trouble. He lost his business because of this. Lost his business, lost his livelihood. And this is a guy that believed in America, okay? And how demoralizing is that? I'm going to show you why this case was pursued. Give me a second here. Because I did some background research after this. See, I'm always working. I'm always working for you. I'm Mr. 24/7. So Shelley Stratman was the judge in Nebraska that ordered this guy. Was it Franklin Freeman? Is that his name? Anyway, she's the one that ordered the grand jury to subpoena Jacob Gardner. Now the DA totally chimed in, and said this was self-defense. There's no case here. No case. But Shelley Stratman was the one that changed that. Well, why did she change that? And I'm going to show you a couple of reasons why. Okay. So here is the June 10th special prosecutor appointed to the James Skurlock. So it's Frederick Franklin. This is Frederick Franklin. And that's interesting. So he's showing his fraternal affiliation there. Epsilon, what is that? Epsilon Sci-Fi, which is basically a junior league for Boulay and Prince Hall. And this guy Franklin was private practice, but she assigned him to be a special prosecutor So Franklin was appointed as a special prosecutor. He was not working for the government at the time. Okay, it is Shelley Stratman who appoints him. Okay, now he served as a federal prosecutor for the U.S. Attorney General's office for 21 years, but at the time he was in private practice. She pulls him off the bench. I'm not interested in being an advocate. My role in this is to gather the evidence, organize, present to the grand jury, allow them to ask questions of the witnesses, and aid them in their decision making. Oh, really? Aid them in their decision making. So Stratman pulls this guy off the bench. Attorney Justin Wayne, who's representing the Skurlock family, sent this statement. Today is the first step in a long process. The Skurlock family and I want to thank Judge Statman for her thoroughness, blah, 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 blah. Lastly, I hope Don Klein's office will give Mr. Franklin a fair chance of litigating this matter and only comment if Don Klein plans to pursue charges himself. Otherwise, additional public comments will only prejudice the process. What the hell does that mean? It means shut the fuck up, right? Shut up. You don't have the ability to weigh in here. Okay. Now, again, I'm going to show you why Shelley Statman went the route. Okay. So she has a history of having some very uneven judgments. Okay. Some very uneven judgments in her case history. And there is one in particular. This is the one that I think is the one that she has to atone for, right? Because there's pressure on her for this judgment. A judge sentenced a 15-year-old boy to 22 to 48 years in prison in the fatal shooting of an Omaha teenager during a dispute the prosecutors say involved drugs. Tyson Wells was sentenced Wednesday after pleading no contest in November to second-degree murder in the death of 17-year-old Zachary Parker. Prosecutors say Wells, who was 14 at the time, shot Parker in February in a dispute over marijuana. Wells' defense attorney sought to have his client tried in juvenile court. Douglas County District Court Judge Shelley Stratman refused, noting Wells' connections to gang life, drug use, and violence in school. Stratman says Wells should take this second chance as an opportunity to challenge and educate himself. State law says Wells could be eligible for parole in 11 years. Okay, so this was a big case in Omaha where she wound up essentially sentencing a teen to life in prison. Now, there's another case where she gave, where is it? This is the one right here. Okay. So in this case, she gives this guy probation. Okay. So the former Creighton University student fraternity member accused of slashing an 8-year-old woman's neck, rejected a plea deal in November. He wanted to take his chances at trial. But 2 weeks ago, Douglas County District Judge Shelley Stratman ruled that she wouldn't allow evidence of alleged hazing by the now closed fraternity be used as a defense. So 20-year-old Christopher Wheeler changed his mind and on Tuesday accepted the plea. We would probably lose 7 or 8 times out of 10 if we had a trial and can't give that information. Wheeler pleaded no contest. Wheeler faces a maximum of 20 years in prison. Okay, he got probation. Stratman said that while hazing may have occurred, Wheeler took many steps on his own. He illegally purchased vodka at Walmart that evening, involuntarily smoked marijuana. Then the 19-year-old pledge could have chosen not to party with his new fraternity brothers, the judge said. Further, she said he did not present any evidence that he was under threat of physical harm if he didn't get drunk or high. Okay, so, I mean, while that's true, people don't understand psychological coercion, especially when it comes to fraternities, who I hate, by the way. This whole idea of fraternities and hazing to me is deplorable, absolutely deplorable. So this guy winds up basically getting probation. Okay. So she won't consider hazing, but he winds up getting probation. So now we have this supposed white guy, right, who winds up getting probation. And then we have this, black teen who gets life in prison. Shelley Statman was under pressure to adjudicate this case and move forward. Right? There are already petitions to have her removed. So this is what the social dynamic does. And by the way, judges are electable. And you think she wants to be reelected? Of course she does. She wants to serve for life. That's what she wants to do. So again, the same kind of pressure was probably applied to hazing guy, which by the way, I don't condone. The same kind of pressure was probably applied to Shelley Statman to put together a grand jury, pull Franklin Freeman off the bench, and then put him in charge of this grand jury to go after Jacob Gardner, even though the district attorney had already said that there was no case there. Weighed in self-defense. And as a result of this, now, again, Jacob Gardner theoretically is dead. Dead. Gone. And I saw an interview with James Scurlock's mother and brother. It is pathetic. It's totally pathetic. And I don't even want to weigh in on it. I'm just telling you it's pathetic. Because they don't understand what their brother and son was involved in. Their brother and son was involved in physically assaulting a man and strangling him and in the process of taking his life. They don't understand that. All they can see is the fact that, well, he was innocent, he was robbed, his life ended too early, and now there's got to be justice. I guarantee you, there's nothing left now from Jacob Gardner's. Now, they may go after his father. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know if they will or not. I mean, we live in such a litigious society. Maybe they'll sue the city of Omaha. Who knows? And maybe the city of Omaha may say, oh, okay. Yeah, okay, we want to get this out of the way. Let's give them $1.5 million. I wonder where the GoFundMe is now at that point. I think they had one. I think it got suspended. I don't know. I think it was for Jacob Gardner. So I just wanted to give you some background because I looked into it last night. This is a judge who is under pressure because of rulings she made in the past. One, again, which was a pretty heavy-duty sentence for a 15-year-old that shot somebody in cold blood over marijuana. What are you going to do with a kid like that? You going to let him back out on the streets? Really? You're going to let him back out on the streets? He killed somebody over a weed deal, right? What are you going to do with him? Now, the other guy who gets probation because of, the slap. Now, the woman whose throat he slashed did not die, if that's any indication. But again, who knows what he was on? And I'm not giving him an excuse, by the way. I can't stand fraternities. I think the whole hazing process is terrible and humiliating. And if you've been in a fraternity or a sorority, this is not meant towards you. We make choices in life. It was never anything I was interested in. And I didn't go to a school where it was a really big deal. I went to a commuter school. And they had them, but I had no interest in being a part of one. None whatsoever. And I get it. You go to a school, you're there, you don't know anybody, you're a freshman, safety in numbers, connections, both there and beyond college. Feels like it could be a good career move, right? Wrong. Wrongo. I want to get up to speed here with your comments, but unfortunately, I'm going to have to go in the void for a moment. So bear with me as I leave time space for just a few moments. Okay, I'm back. All right. Uncle Glenn says, I know our legal system was a joke very early in life. It has become worse. Let me tell you a story, Uncle Glenn. This has to do with legal system and judges. So when I first moved here, I was riding my bike around the Berg. Nobody calls it the Berg. I'll start calling it the Berg. It was 4th of July. I'm riding my bike and I roll up on this party. And it's like a barbecue. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm just going to invite myself to this party. I don't know who's throwing it, but I'm going to go crash this party. So I did, and then a nice little spread, a lot of people. At that time, I was partaking in fermented and distilled beverages. So I think I had a couple glasses of wine that day. And it was a barbecue for the Democratic Party. And there were a lot of people there, and there were speakers. And I bum rushed the mic, by the way. And I was promoting our anti-fluoride initiative, and they didn't know I was doing that, but I did it anyway. But prior to that, there was a judge who got up there. I'd never witnessed such hubris and ego in my life. Never. And I've been around a lot of ego. Trust me. Okay. I used to be in the music business. I played sports, and I've dipped my toes in that pool every now and then myself. This woman, she took the cake. She gets up there. First of all, she's about 5'4", maybe, Latina, busty. And she says to the crowd, I am the most powerful person here today. I am the most powerful person here. She said that. And she didn't say it with a hint of irony. Not at all. She was being like honest. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, that is number one, it's painfully truthful in some ways. Number two, it is so egotistical. So egotistical. And then she talked about being an activist judge. She was very clear, plain, and open about how that plays a role in her rulings and her philosophy on the judiciary. And I was stunned, man. I was stunned. And this is what happens at the judiciary level, right? So you have county, district, city, county, district judges. And boy, you're playing Russian roulette when you get into that world. Let me tell you. And I looked at all the judges when I hadn't voted since 1980. I voted in 1980 for the presidential election in 1980. I didn't like Reagan. I couldn't stand Carter. So there was this guy named Lyndon LaRouche. I didn't know who he was, but I'm voting for him. Little did I know that I actually voted for the right candidate. Anyway, but I hadn't voted since then, and because of the fluoride thing, and I needed to support the cause, and who knows, theoretically, I thought my vote would count. So I registered, and I decided to vote. And when I did, I looked at all the judges. I'm like, I'm not going down the D path. And because I know one of them, I forget her name, but I know one of them is one of the ones that was, on that lawn on that day, telling everybody just how powerful she was. So I'm going in the exact opposite direction, right? I didn't care. I didn't care who the other people were. I just knew I didn't want that person. So guess what? All three of the judges that I voted against, they all won. They all won, which is really interesting, right? Because, in other areas, this was a very quote unquote Republican ticket, right? Chip Roy won, Kyle Biederman won, Ted Cruz beat Beta and Beta. So it doesn't make a lot of sense in some ways that for the most part in this area, we had a fairly Republican ticket. And again, I'm not saying one party is better than the other. I'm just telling you that the numbers suggested that it was a Republican ticket that was advanced. Meanwhile, the judges were not Republican. They were all Democrats, and how does that work? Like, how does that work? I mean, I kind of know how it works in some ways. Anyway, that was my experience, and it was like, this is bad news. Really bad news. I'm starting to get a little glitchy here. All right, here we go. I've been to several courts where the judge says, I'm the law here. Yeah, man, it's just a concentration of power that is really like, you don't want to go there. Like, that's a place you don't want to be. You just don't want to be there. Of course, there's a remnant. Look, it's a small remnant. What else do we have here? Last I heard, they were arrested juveniles, so I'm not sure what happened. What little culture and morality America had is gone. Well, you know what? You got to stand fast. Whatever's left, you're going to have to personify it, and you're going to have to be able to express it, and you're going to have to be whatever that is, right? Whatever that is, and I believe there are qualities that we can all agree upon, and they're pretty high qualities, right? So whatever you believe to be the quote unquote American qualities, you have a responsibility to anchor them, express them, respect them, right? And to hold space for them to be a part of your life on every single level. That's it. What else can you do? You gonna give up? You throw in the towel? All right. I wanted to talk about, well, so last night I got into the time travel thing with the Philadelphia experiment. And so there's this interview. I think it's Stuart Swerdlow. And, I'm not sure where I weigh in on Stuart Swerdlow, by the way. Okay. I'm just not. But I do know that Stuart Swerdlow has timelines, nomenclature, like he can recite the script in a pretty, and I'm pretty sure it's Stuart Swerdlow. I can't find this, but I'm pretty sure it's him. So I wanted to kind of return to the scene of the crime last night, or not really the crime, but the whole time travel thing, because it gives a lot of credence to this Orion piece that I was talking about. And also the Phoenix Project, which I've also been talking a lot about lately as well. So let me get into this. And remember, I'm going to throw in, just for all of you who didn't see last night's show, I'm just really going to throw in the main points here. Throw this chart back up. Okay. So this is the chart that I was working off of, which was the August 12th, 1943 chart. And what's weird is that Wikipedia points to, I believe it's October 27th. Okay. And so here it is. This is the chart that I was showing last night. Okay, right there. And I'm going to tell you why this is interesting on a number of different levels. So for me, I have a personal connection with the so-called Philadelphia experiment. And I've told this story before. When I was living in just outside of Olympia, a little place called Scott Lake, I had a series of dreams in 1990 that were absolutely and utterly life-changing. There was a whole series of dreams that kind of blew my mind. And one of the dreams had me walking through this kind of wall of plasma energy, which was like a current, and it was running in a specific direction. And I stepped through it, and in that moment, I realized that I had another life somewhere else, and I knew exactly what was going on with that life. I was tapped into this alternate life, and it really blew my mind. So I went to go see this medium channel psychic, and she was actually kind of interesting. And she said, well, do you want me to go into psychic mode or channel mode? I'm like, well, I'm paying you X amount of money. Let's go for the channel. I want to see the channel at work, So she went into channel mode. And she said that I had these two alternate lives. And I've told the story before, and it's worth repeating because it ties into the Philadelphia experiment. She said that I had a life as a young girl, alternate life as a young girl in the Midwest and quite poor, and which was interesting because, man, I could not, in my 20s, I could not get out of the fucking cycle of poverty in my 20s. It was very difficult. Very, very difficult. I was not an abundant person during the 80s. It was a very difficult time financially for me, and even through the 90s to some extent. And then she said, I have another life, and he's an older man in Philadelphia. Okay. And this was the summer where I had all these synchronicities with the city of Philadelphia. Of course, I'm wearing the Philadelphia cap today, Philadelphia Phillies. So, so weird. This whole thing is so weird. So I filed that away. And then I was traveling across the country, and the day was August 12th. And I was reading the second Montauk book, which I believe is Adventures in Synchronicity by Peter Moon. And the first two Montauk books are great. If you haven't read the Montauk Chronicles, #1, and Montauk Synchronicities, I highly recommend them. Great research. Peter Moon, interesting character. So I was reading that. I'm in my van. I'm in a campground in Santa Fe, and I'm reading, and it's August 12th, and they're talking about the Philadelphia experiment, and then I realize it's August 12th. I'm like, holy shit, I'm reading this passage, and it's August 12th. I'd already read the book. I was rereading it again. So then I decide that I'm going to go to Taos. Again, I have no money, where I'm traveling cross country. I go to Taos. I managed to connect with this woman who has this gallery, trippy woman. She told me this amazing story where she was an executive at Disney and literally got kidnapped and was held hostage. Like somebody went into the Disney offices and essentially kidnapped her by gunpoint and held her. And she managed to talk her way out of this. So weird shit, right? So she has this like bookstore gallery, and she lets me do readings there. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. So I come in there. I guess I landed in Taos on I think a Wednesday or Thursday. And I did a few readings. And on Monday night, she had this woman coming in doing Akashic readings. And she invited me. She even paid my way to be in there. So I'm the last person, and I asked her this question about the Philadelphia experiment. I said, I was reading this thing on August 12th, and I feel like I've got this connection. I've always like really been into time travel. Like that's been my thing. She says the exact same thing as these two alternate lives. Exact same thing. Exact same personages. The young girl in the Midwest and this guy in Philadelphia. Very odd. And then she goes one step further and says that the guy in Philadelphia was an engineer on the Philadelphia experiment. Now, she claims that it wasn't time travel and it didn't happen, that something else happened. And okay, I'm willing to, suspend my belief or disbelief around that. But this woman confirmed something that was essentially 6 years apart and two different people. It's blowing my mind, right? The whole thing is blowing my mind. So, okay. Then I eventually wind up going to Philadelphia, and the weirdest thing happens. So I go to Philadelphia, and this was, God, I think it might have been around 2015, maybe. It's about 5 years ago. And I'm going to this place that's kind of outside of Philadelphia, and it's an event, right? And a bunch of people had rented out a space, and it was for this gal who had cancer, and this woman was basically living every day like it was the last day of her life. I commend her for that. And this get together, this party was one of them. So I was brought in to do readings for the people at this party, at this event, in this lodge. So in order to get there, got to take an Uber, right? An Uber car, walk out, and I go up to this car, and it's waiting. And I said, is this the Uber for Robert? And the guy says, oh, yes, it is. Come on in. So I get in the car, and we start driving, and begin to realize, after dialoguing with this guy, that he is not taking me to the place that I need to go to. Why? Question mark. Well, the question mark is that the car that was supposed to pick me up was right behind that car, but he was supposed to pick somebody up named Robert. The whole thing was so weird, like sort of like these two parallels. It was just bizarre. Like, what are the odds that there would be two Uber cars and both cars would be waiting for a guy named Robert? And I jump into this other one, and it's taking me down this other, like literally parallel but different timeline to a different destination. The whole thing was totally weird. Totally weird. Anyway, just another kind of strange confirmation. So here we go. Here's Saturn and Orion. And I talked about this last night, right? And I'm going to, and again, look at Sun, Jupiter, True Node, Pluto. Now, this is where the whole Stuart, again, I think it's Stuart Swerdlow. I can't find the, I can't find the source, but I'm pretty sure it's Swerdlow. So I'm going to show you this piece that where is it? Give me 1 second. There it is, right there. Okay, so this is from a website called freezone.org. Okay, so I'm going to go back in and I'm going to show you guys the source material, and it's called Orion Technology. I'm going to start from the beginning, and I basically looked for all the associations with Orion in the Philadelphia experiment, and there's 42 of them. So again, it's psychotropics, Orion Technology, et cetera, et cetera. And I believe this is Stuart Swerdlow, because I can't find the source here, but I'm pretty sure it's Swerdlow. Orion Technology and other secret projects. This report was constructed from over 9 hours of video interviews, personal interviews, and individual commentary. It is structured in an open question answer format without regard to who is asking the question, who is answering. Okay. So again, they're not sort of leaking like the who behind it. But this report contains information on the following: the Philadelphia Project or Rainbow Project, Phoenix projects, which I talked about last week. And we got into Colston, Westbrook, and the Phoenix project, which relates back to Bill Barr and some of the henchmen that Bill Barr was working with through the Phoenix project when he was inside of the Bush administration. 1 to 3, origins, radio sonde connections with the work of Wilhelm Reich, government weather control programs, hidden agenda that Montauk, this should be mind, not Hein control project. The deliberate murder of thousands of American children and mind control research and time tunnel experiments, which is what we were talking about last night with the time tunnel. Government time tunnel projects and operational procedures. How Nikola Tesla and John von Neumann, who shows up a lot here, contributed to these projects. The martyrdom clause, mind control by individual signature, technical ways to produce planetary holograms and Maitreya effects. This is pretty interesting stuff. Project Dream Scan, Project Moon Scan, the Airborne Instrument Labs, Project Mind Record, the alien groups known as the Kondrashikin and their interaction with the U.S. government mind control, Kamagol 2 and Giza groups, the negative Syrian Soviet scalar weaponry, Orion group manipulations, 6 root race incarnations, telepathy producing drugs and their use and suppression, the FAA, zero-time generators. So we are really off into the we've just stepped off into the Marianas Trench here. Like we're in deep X-Files territory. We got AIDS, we got Fort Detrick, which, by the way, supposedly is where the Wu flu was created. Maglev trains, U.S. Underground Tunnel Network, missing human genes, buried spacecraft, black nobility, Nordic and human copper-based blood systems, etc., 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 etc. It's all here, right? And it gets into technology, nature, and purposes, and the Orion group. fourth density transmutation of the human race, geological changes, Syrian mind control technology, and more along the illustrations gleaned from witnesses with photographic memory and a lot of courage. Okay, so these are the interviews. Now, I think that these are kludged, and I'm not sure who is being interviewed here, but it talks about the Philadelphia project, right? Boom. Right out of the gate. Frequencies, 403, 1680 megahertz. Okay. Now, you guys could use this as a launching pad. The government could not tell the public these were weather controlled devices. What we are seeing here is actually the genesis of what became the Montauk Project, which is a combination of Wilhelm Reich's work and the Philadelphia experiment. There were two separate projects going on in Phoenix. One, you had the invisibility aspect, and you had the development of Wilhelm Reich's weather control toward the end of the Phoenix project. By using some of Wilhelm Reich's concepts and some of the transmission schemes used from Radio Sound project, they found that you could combine the two factors and use them for mind control. Government circles would have me say mood alteration, but mind control is what these idiots were doing. That's what the Montauk Project was. No, Phoenix won. After political circles found out about it, they wanted it shut down. So we're getting into Brookhaven Labs, which is on the East Coast, right? Which I believe is where, is that Plum Island? Isn't that where Brookhaven is? Lime? Okay. So we're going to look at all the Orion references here. They're interesting. They're very, very interesting. And so they're talking about time jumping, time chairs, kids through the tunnel. So this, I mean, this is all here. This thing is just a freaking gold mine of high strange and sort of dark psychotronic black project information. You know, in 1879, this is interesting, right? Other people came on board. Thomas T. Brown joined the project because of his expertise in electrogravity effects. He had the task of solving the problem of the German magnetic mines that affected Allied shipping and naval efforts. So this is just really interesting stuff. All right, let's get into the Orion stuff. That's where the steak has the sizzle, as they say. Okay, well, there were 8 projects ongoing at AIL that also had to do with the development of weaponry against aliens. In 1989, the Orion Group discovered this and destroyed the projects. It can only be assumed that AIL still functioned in this area. What other research goes on at Long Island? Research on scalar weaponry, like the one that destroyed the Challenger. I thought the Challenger was destroyed by the Soviets using scalar. No, the Soviets didn't do that. Interesting. What is the ultimate power behind the Phoenix project? Ultimately, the whole thing is manipulated by the Orion Group. The expectation was that they could use mind control to take over the populace in the 1990s, no later than 1994 or 1995. They have also been doing genetic work, which they alter human sperm and ovum to the extent that all offspring will produce hybrids with new characteristics. Humans will mate and create children with alien genetics. Have you noticed how different kids look these days? Have you noticed that? Like, I was watching reruns of The Dating Game and over the weekend, and it looks like a completely different species. Completely different. Since 1947, there have been components of the 6th race incarnating on this planet. The 5th race was the Aryans. This gets back to this whole idea of root races, right? That comes out of Madame Blavatsky's theory of root races and theosophy. And Madame Blavatsky was actually born on August 12th, the same day that the Philadelphia experiment theoretically happened. Also, supposedly, George Soros' birthday. Wasn't there a movie about something like that years ago? Yes, I don't remember the name, but it came out in 1982. In that film, there was a drug that made babies. It's called Scanners. And that's another show and tell movie. That's another must see. If you've not seen David Cronenberg's Scanners, you got to see it. It's about the two groups that are fighting one another to create essentially telepathically enhanced children for creation and destruction. There was a Canadian company that's producing a drug which turned out to do just that. And by the way, it's a Canadian company. David Cronenberg is Canadian. It's a Canadian movie. It was removed immediately, although its use continues privately. In the movie, the government had a way of using electromagnetics to explode a person's head to get rid of them. Daryl Revick, played by Michael Ironside, one of the great villains of all time. And who is the professor? Patrick McGowan, who plays number 1 in The Prisoner. Interesting. Which is what? A series about mind control. Okay. So this is quite interesting. Now, oh,
Sorry, I couldn't find Isabel in your contacts.
oh, Siri's always listening. How about some interesting technology spin-offs from the Philadelphia experiment? So they get into all that here. Black level clearance. Okay, but I wanted to show you this one thing around this, which really caught my eye. I think it's right around here. Right around here. Well, the Greys were not part of Montauk. And again, I don't know where you chime in on this whole alien thing, but I think that at the very least, this is very, very interesting. Very interesting stuff because of the connection with this whole idea of the Orion group and this chart, which I'll go back to. They look like humans. They're members of the Orion group there occasionally. The K group has some connection with the place, but I personally never saw any of them. Lastly, there were inhabitants of that ship that was captured. The Orion Confederation includes a lot of groups, including the Leverons. The Orion group is supposedly at war with a group called the Elohim. Would you say that is accurate? Yes, this is happening. The Elohim group is a very old race, perhaps the oldest in the universe, at least the oldest we know. Now, the Elohim are probably the Watchers who were already here. Like there's that whole timeline of the Watchers on this domain, okay? The Orion group, they're weasels in the background that manipulate everybody, including the Grey. The Orion group includes various reptilian species. So the Orion group would be, I think, the equivalent of the Archons. Was a zero-time generator from alien sources. No, Tesla created the zero-time generator in the 20s. It provided a very basic time reference, which is actually locked to the center of our galaxy. By the way, that is the galactic center. Or if you're looking at Alcyone, the great central sun. But this is the galactic center, the center of the galaxy. That's why they call it a zero-time generator. Locking equipment to that is the only way you can get some of these higher function generators to work. So they talk about crystals, more Montauk. Okay. When you get to the level of the warp mentality, the world leaders that are controlled by the Orion group, you don't really know what their goals are. They're totally dependent on a specific technology, including time machines, which are anchored in the 40 years time rift. Now, this is important. Very, very important. I'm going to show you where this time rift comes into play. Let's see, are any Orion-based timetables involved in this? Well, the Orions have their own way of doing things. The Orion group itself is not here in large number. Okay. Where it is. Okay, they talk about Hertz, Orion genetics. Let me just keep going. So how does this affect the world government plans now that the Orion group is temporarily gone? Now, I don't know if they're gone or not. Temporary, who knows? I just think this is quite interesting, especially as it relates with the Philadelphia project. But there was a timeline here, which is a 40-year timeline. And it gets into Federal Reserve, gets into all this stuff. It's like fascinating. Really, really fascinating. Okay, so negative Syrians. So there is apparently a 40-year timeline that's supposed to run out in 2020 with this thing. And I just have to find it. Okay. Let me go back to the, let's go back here. And I just want to do all the Orion references. Okay, here we go. Orion group manipulations, 6 root race. Here we go. Let's see, 1909, the Orion group sees time as, let's see, Orion group sees them as a threat. They've been aware since 1942. All right, remember now, Philadelphia experiment takes place in 1943. Changes the nature of reality, right? Potentially shifts the timeline. Okay, let's just keep going here. There's the Elohim reference. Timetables based on this. It's this 40-year time rift. It's the 40-year time rift. Because there was a window that took place on August 12th, 1943, that they had to take advantage of. It was like a portal that they had to take advantage of during this time. Again, I'm just sharing this with you and bringing it back to this whole idea of the Philadelphia experiment. I just have to find the timeline piece, which would line everything up. Okay, we get into the law of one. They do follow the law of one to preserve free will. So this would be basically the person of the Orion group is enslavement and Congress. The judges locate certain individuals who vibrate in resonance with their own vibrational complex and manipulate them. There's a concept called spiritual entropy, which apparently causes them to experience constant disintegration of their socially memory complexes. They do follow the law of one, but observe free will according to the service to self. Those on the enslaved planet then disseminate the attitudes of philosophy, which is service to self. These individuals become the elite. Through the elite, the attempt begins to create a condition whereby the remainder of the planetary entities are enslaved by free will. Okay. All right. I'm not going to stay on this too much longer because I just wanted to find that timeline piece. So it's interesting that according to mathematics and I Ching, everything goes jackpot around 2012, which supposedly is where the Mandela effect comes into play. And I'm not a Mandela effect expert. It's not really affected me. All right. So I'm going to jump out of here with this. But apparently, according to this source, that there was a window that was open in that August 12th period, right? And it was open for 40 years. So 1942 to, no, I think it was 80 years. It was 80 years. So I think it's 2022, right? 2022 is when this window, this portal ends. And I promise I'll dig it up and I'll bring it back tomorrow because it's pretty relevant in a lot of ways. And again, bringing it back to the chart, keep in mind that in the chart, we have right here, right? We have in the chart of the Philadelphia experiment, two major factors. And the factors are the force multiplier of Jupiter, Pluto, Leo, True Node, Sun. You know, they're all information at that time, right? Very powerful. I mean, this is a total force multiplier. And what do we have here? We have Orion at 2211 conjuncting Saturn. This is what I was talking about last night, which is the, how do I say this? The formalization of Orion, or even this idea of this Orion group as a Saturnian entity, which theoretically could control time, right? Time space. Now, the galactic center would be down here at 2027 Sagittarius, which, by the way, would be conjunct the moon in Capricorn. Totally conjunct the moon in Capricorn. And if let's just say, for instance, if I wanted to change this time, let's say, and I do think that this is probably pretty close to the time that they did run this experiment, right? Universal time 11:11, sidereal time 3:30. But if I brought this thing out to, let's just play with this a little bit. Let's just go back to and edit this. Let's just say they did this thing at midnight, right? Which is, I don't know if it's possible or not, but it keeps it in that October 12th, August 12th day. Where's the moon? Let's see where the moon is. So there we go, right? So even after 12 midnight, the moon is at 27 degrees Sagittarius. And, where do you want to see where the galactic center is? I'll show you. This is exactly what they were talking about in the interview, because this is where they have theoretically locked in these theoretical time control devices right there. Right? So again, we still have the force multiplier. Pluto, Jupiter, True Node, Sun. I mean, everything, the song remains the same at 12:01 a.m. But by the time we get to 7:11, the moon has moved 5 degrees and actually 4 degrees and moved that to 1 degree Capricorn. So who knows? I mean, maybe they're firing up the equipment right after midnight, right? Universal time, 4 o'clock, sidereal time, 2018. If I wanted to, I could probably get that sidereal time to 2020. And wouldn't that be interesting? And again, no water. No water for an experiment that was held on a ship. And I showed you guys that picture last night from the Slipway. And again, this thing kind of blew my mind. If you missed last night's show, I'll show you the picture, because not everybody watched last night's show. And Anne brought something up which I have to address without dissing Anne or denigrating Anne, because she has a lot of really, really good things to say, and has some great observations. I'm gonna have to sort of push back on this one, and it has to do with the fact that I don't believe that the UN would have that much foresight, right? So this was a painting that this guy who was English did halfway around the world on August 12th in Reykjavik Harbor, right? This is the same day, theoretically, the Philadelphia experiment is taking place. And the title is called Slipway. It's the same day. And he paints this ship. It's very impressionistic, and it's not even really in the water, right? It looks like it's kind of dry docked, and the whole thing is very impressionistic and looks quite slippery, right? It's not. It almost looks like it's phasing in and out of reality. And this wound up hanging in the Tate Gallery, and the guy that did this, Thomas Hennell, I'll even show you his bio. Thomas Hennell did not live very long. Shortly after a series of paintings, these are a number of his paintings. It wasn't just one. The tree, landscape, flint heap, portrait study, all very much in the same style, right? He only lives until 1945. So 2 years after he created this painting, and he was an official war artist. So he was killed while serving in Indonesia, theoretically, in 1945. So take it for, as a grain of salt for whatever it is. I don't think that they would commission Thomas Hennell to do this painting because some guy in 2020 would land on it and make the connection between this painting and the Philadelphia experiment. I'm just saying. I don't think that they have that much foresight to try to sell this thing. And I'm not sure there are a lot of other people that have stumbled upon this painting at the same time. I'm not saying I'm special or anything, but I'm not sure anybody's made this connection, the synchronicity of this. Also, we talk about Madame Blavatsky being born on August 12th. And that whole idea of the 6 root races, well, it comes through Madame Blavatsky, right? So, interesting, high, strange. Okay, I got one more thing to show you before I'm out of here today. And this is a little disturbing. And you guys need to pay attention to this. This crossed my radar. I think it was on Saturday, Sunday. So here we go. 3 back-to-back gas explosions across North Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. This is from your boy Dutch Since. Starting just after September 16th, you can see all 3 explosions in North Texas, Central Oklahoma, and Fort Smith, Arkansas, border Arkansas, Oklahoma. All 3 flashes of heat can be seen on NAR infrared. So this is, I guess, the technology that Dutch has used to sort of track the dews. Let's see what happens here. See if we can spot what happens. Oh, I didn't see it. Did you guys see it? I didn't see it. It's supposed to be right here. Right, where is it? I don't see it. 3 back-to-back heat signatures within 1 hour of each other. I'm sorry, I don't see it. Let me play it one more time. I don't know. Maybe they scrubbed this thing, but I don't see it. If this is true and these have happened, they're significant because they will interrupt the distribution of petroleum. But I didn't see it. Did you guys see it? I didn't see it. But it wouldn't surprise me if that indeed is the case. Okay. So holler at your boy Dutch Sense if you want more information on that. All right. Thanks for being here. Big email day for me. I'll be reaching out to a lot of people today. Monday is my email day. I'll be getting back to as many people as possible. I will have a little link here if you'd like to donate, support the program. And the event is cranking up, and we'll be seeing as many of you as possible. I think right around 36 people will be showing up here shortly in the Hill Country to explore community, an idea of community and a temporary autonomous zone that we'll be creating. So use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to save what's possible. Thank you for all of your support, spiritually, emotionally, physically, and otherwise. I appreciate it. Couldn't do it without you on many levels. And I'm Robert Phoenix. You are you. Use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to save what's possible. Bye for now.